was my next question. Where are we going now?
I shouldn't anticipate questions a minute ahead of before the questions are asked.
We can just get it. Ask me the question.
Is that us?
We're going now. We're going now past toward Tauranga Taupo, and we'll be going past the wetlands for Ducks Unlimited, the finest wetlands and preserve of the lake. That was done with work we did with the local Maori, called Matua, many years ago, and from there we'll head up toward Motutere, but before we'll stop at a couple of places. I'll give a brief history regarding the area toward Motutere.
Thank you.
First trip here, we're by Ruatua, and I've done a extensive work in this area, and I've put out a report some years ago for this regarding development and lands and that. This has almost been a floodplain. And there have been serious floods in the past that have affected houses and that. In the past, with the pumice and that, there's been storage pits, but there've been tomo, and some of the larger tomo that were at one time in the paddocks over here became burial repositories of burials. And that, and the pits, and such pits were fairly common from here and behind us, just this side of Motuapa, that when they've been unearthed, have been not one but a dozen or so, at least individuals put in the put in these big old tomos areas here. But for coming more recent history, we're by the Tauranga Taupo River, and the sharp bend at the corner, and between there and the lake, Te after he went from Hātepe, he stopped here, and when the months later, when the troops came, mainly with Taranaki or Maori, and they had enough of contingent and forces to pursue Te, they were stopped on the other side of the river here, Tauranga Taupo. There's old paintings and pictures of the unconstabulary encampment after that, but they hastily erected punga posts. The green punga were quite effective at stopping the bullets, and for 2 days shots were exchanged by both sides. I don't think anyone was hit. It was all much sabre rattling, and after that Te men retreated down south and over toward Pihanga end. But that was the first conflict, if you could call it a conflict, of people taking pot shots at each other, reminiscent in the past at the Tutakamoana Pa, with the people with a musket firing shots just a generation or two before that. So a similar thing happened here. The soldiers come, and then they put out their camp, and they left it as a camp before they established another redoubt over at Pihanga. So this is a waypoint between Opepi. They're all linked as far as engagements go, with the story and the places we're going to and for following. That's in the 1860s. This is October 1869 that this took place. Now from here, you're going past. There's a church. And on the right side, and there's an empty section on the left, and in the old camping ground, in the middle of the camping ground, it was leased, I think, for 6 pennies a year, for a 90-year lease, 6 pennies a year. The camping ground passed here, and smack in the middle of the camping ground, marked with a big cabbage tree, was the old Urupa. It dated from about the 1840s, 1850s on. And when I was out with the elders, immediately opposite the church there, I pointed out in the open paddock that there was 2 burials in there. Dated about 1840, and when the family that took interest in that happened to have the name of Northcroft, and they suddenly decided a few years later, this is where you can involve elders Kumatua, and one of them there was the one that did the Ducks Unlimited for that wetland, that massive wetland. So they were present with other elders. So we all met and assembled up the road further, and with that, putting that in place, but nothing got passed on. Next thing, family, their houses and batches, holiday homes and others, all up and down. We've got an empty section. Let's clear it and put a couple of houses on it. Scrape, bang, 2 burials, where I said, unearthed. So suddenly it quickly covered over, and to this day it's just left in grass and sand. And what is why is it not this information that could be still utilised, fenced off, identified, and then have both the use? So that just predated the old cemetery in the middle of the camping ground there. So that's only part of many stories and associations I've got with locals, elders, and others there. One of the dilemmas they had with the church there is some of the graves there are clearly seen, but there's no markers or anything to say who the people are. We had back in 2000 at the Marae here, we had Jared O'Regan, I think it was 2002. We had New Zealand's first rock art conference was held here, held here, and that was in articles and that. And after that, I was their guide to the kakaho. So that's only some of my personal journeys and connections with people now living in the past, and things that have happened around here. And as I say, I did a report for all this area, or Ruatua. I don't know who for or what to those days. You know, reports come and go. I just kept moving on. But as I say, one thing is identify with the locals, but don't say, oh, you should have this here or there. But it's the locals that can make things happen, like the big putting aside Maori land, Ducks Unlimited, that we've got this should be a crowning point for wetland conservation people on what has been done and what can be done and what should be done. But they always got someone, oh, but I want to put a house here, I want to drain this, and I can do that. But if you've got much land to generously bequeath that legacy, you know, let it be done. That the animals, the fauna and flora can all be protected. It's another little piece of the lake. So this is a good confirmation with yourselves here. Yes. And it's over in that area, the Northcroft area, that the 2 bodies were in there. Oh. That was that cleared area, that section. Yes. Just against this lot. Yes. I pointed out about the 2 older graves, and they're all older than this lot.
Surprised they didn't move them into.
No, this was they were earlier, and I'm surprised then why didn't they make everyone over there to join them? You know, it works both ways, doesn't it? Different reasons why things were done. I think they should track those down because they just passed here. The older trees marking this is now gone. And when I say that, it's this one. This is the pa.
This one here.
Doesn't it look pa? Scream out pa.
Yes.
Now, I've got the ground plans and layout for that, and that's a ditch surround, and in the ditch at the back of those trees is there's storage pits actually in the ditch, in the side of the ditch itself. When it came to forestry people, let everything go. I see why. At Whaitaima and others, it wasn't their family or they couldn't connect to it. They weren't interested. So that was one of many that we got put aside. Put aside there.
Is that why there's no trees on it now?
That's why there'll never be any trees planted on it. And they did have at one time, they did have, I think they put a little stand of gums just to separate it, so distinguish it. But all that flat down the front were a whole lot of river stone and all worked in that. And this was another source. One of the rarest sources of tool and tool making. And when I said Walker had brought stones to Whaikapo Bay, the stones could have well have come from here and been brought all the way up to Whaikapo Bay. There's now from the old garden working levels, from here where we go down from where that just a bit past where that blue sign is and the truck is, there's a line going to Motutere. There were originally 30 canoe landing sites, where, as I say, they cleared the ground, threw the rocks on the lake or the old shore, it's like here, and then they had cleared the rocks for canoes, 30, similar number to and pattern outline with Whaikapo Bay.
Is this just up ahead where we're going now?
The lakes are too low here, but from here, past where the logging truck is, that blue sign, and going right to the corner, there were 30 canoe landings. And then when they put this road in, they then put the machines in and dug more rocks out for fill and lining. And so they've created artificial ones and distorted the historic features, which have got better preserved at Whaikapo Bay. And parking, but I've worked with elders and that where burials have been unearthed. I've got photos, and I've worked with Kumato, 2 Whaitaima Trust Board members, with reburying bones inland here at the back further. So it's I have been involved with changes, and where we're going to past here, because this lake's too high at the moment to have it uncovered, as I say, when the day comes and the lake's way, way low, we'll do a rush tiki tour, zip, 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 you know, half a dozen places before the next big rainfall, and we might be able to capture some that are left. Now from here, we're going to stop at the road on the left at the corner, just shy of the motor camp, and we'll walk across the road. And what we had, and I recorded and stopped with Peter Crawford, the county person. I had him personally there from the county council officers. Can you get mayors and everyone out of their offices and that these days to run because you've got a site of concern? Doesn't happen nowadays, does it?
Not for me.
No, and but here at the corner, and I'll show you some significant features that were noted and recorded and painted rather back in 1840. So I know at least they were at least standing there in 1840. So if Jeffrey says, how do you know they were before 1840? It could be 1900 or so. So then I'm trying to seek some documentation, which a German chap from Germany, from museum curator there, left with me, and that's part of the dialogue and the things we can add to. So are we right with that?
We good?
Yep. Human attic over here, do you think? Or?
Yeah, this is all modified. Jeffrey's on a forest site. But this is only a...
Oh, wow.
And you see how it's exposed and modified, all the banks. All this area and ground's been modified. But these aren't the features that are getting in our way. I want to show you.
Restricting us. Whoa!
Storage pit?
Yes. No. Sometimes pits were used later, like caves for koiwi or repositories like that.
But that wasn't obviously storage pit.
Well, they're in place and time. But that's why I say, Jeffrey, don't let little things clutter the main features. Now, if we catch over here, I can find these places by the way the trees are growing. They're growing off soured ground. Soured ground, the vegetation slightly alters, and you get their kanuka placement.
Soured ground, the vegetation.
I hope you got a lot of grunt. That's just a minor thing. No, it's all hand done, all cultural, every square metre. That's a cultural. Come here. Come right around this way, down here, down here. Just cast your eyes across and then go back for detail. See, Jeffrey won't get anywhere here. Look, look.
How can you call it cave gorgeous though?
This is what. See, there's one here.
Yeah.
You just. See, that's why I say, don't get too close. You miss the wood for the trees.
Yes.
So 1, 2.
3,
This.
4.
Now this is shaped. This here is shaped. And when you get up and in, the detail is that of a miniature foray. So if you,
Are you going in, Jeffrey?
well, you take the detail. Now this is shaped and vaulted like a foray. So get the detail, Jeffrey.
Certainly. Pleasure.
See the sides, the back and the roof?
Yeah,
It's a miniature foray.
isn't it?
I've got them all measured and photographed.
Yeah.
Just amazing. So what was your reaction when you first saw these things? Would you?
No more than once at Broadlands.
Yeah.
But these were in these were a backdrop from an artist at the lake there. These were a backdrop that he sketched in 1840. And the people in Germany taking the artist, because he was with a German traveller, he in the German museum, they saw the artist, and there was a row of huts, and I said, no, they're not. So I took them and showed them, and we were able to match up these with his 1840, so we know they were here at least before 1840, very old. And these are designed purposefully, still preserved, hard in the pumice, in the shape of a foray. So there's Other pits not as defined keep continuing right around. There's a whole row of ring of them. Worth the trip?
Yes, thank you. What a blessing.
No, the roading people are going to cut all this off, take the bend off and go through here. That's why I involved it's no use Wellington having an official record and incompetence or indifferent, even trust boards and trustees. It's the people that are going to authorise damage or destruction of these things that I have to work with their bosses, if you like. That's why I personally involved Peter Crawford at the site from Taupo, and my concerns and the uniqueness of this. We lose so much.
So is this a reserved area?
This is part of a. This was going to be Nocta for road. This was zoned as part of road widening, knock the corner off, do away with all these.
Wow.
So the roading people have an extra width, almost a chain extra to where the present road are. They legally have that wider strip, and then it's just a moment and that to take all these out. So these are things I've personally tried to protect and save, because where's the kaitiaki and where's knowledge, as I say, being passed on and having it handed on for others to be charged of these things. So this goes back, and I hope to recover the old paintings I was left with by the German curator. And no one had any idea. Te Whaitaima, Te Papa Museum, historians, Historic Police Trust, they couldn't identify any of the paintings. And I said, oh, and it took 3 days, 800 kilometres travelling, back and forth, 3 days, and I pointed out the sites of every location that New Zealand experts, art experts, all the boards and everyone else didn't have a clue where anyone. And so this was one of them. It's
So has this site been given a name? Is it just
don't worry about the name. The fact is we've got a official number and placement as to a historic feature, and there are features coming all at the back. The main pa was in the old photo, was out in the open, big palisade pa, and that's one I've got an 1840, I think 1843 thing that I'll download for you when we get back. I've got a clearer one, but something is better than nothing. And I was trying to locate the 1840 picture that shows these that they mistakenly interpret, as anyone would, because some of these were like little forests, and the artist was standing a good 100 metres or so away, and it was interpreted as row of huts, row of houses. And these pits in 1840 against the bank, all cleared ground, was so prominent the artist actually drew in the pit features. Great, eh?
Fantastic. Just he kurahuna, a hidden treasure.
Well, when I wrote letters to people advising Department of Conservation, like Jim Maniapoto and that, let's cooperate, let's share, let's exchange, let's be you in the protection business, wouldn't get a reply. If it was something they wanted, they'd be knocking on my door for something else, but ignore any other real concerns I had.
And it's not even a path to here. I mean, no one would even know.
Well, you can say that about 95% of all these sites I'm pointing out everywhere. And they did know, they have shine everyone from the county planners to others, even historic societies. Where are they? Look, they're just names, names. But positive things I worked on, like the wetlands thing, Ducks Unlimited. People had more affinity to support and for duck preserves and things, and having features like that. But there are features, there are earthworks, there are things going at the back. But the main pa stood out there, and another one. And we've got quite a few stories of this area and in places, and the failed attempt of putting a church up here, a church. So I've got a couple of missionaries preaching at Aurora, but they tried unsuccessfully to put a church here. But I'll relate to those stories when we go to the other side, and we'll have a stop there and gasp and take this small feature. This feature, but it's a feature in itself. It's great. It's marvelous. Is it unique? No, we'll see when we go around the corner. But for now, we're off on the road to do our little staging stops.
These are the best times I enjoy, is when we're off the track.
And remember, if it had been for anyone else, this wouldn't exist. Then we'll have a nice corner, take the sharp corner off, and this would be all part of the highway.
Hamburger. This is beautiful in here, isn't it? It's like a little...
They actually had slots on the side, got a bit of fill, where they put boards in. They could put slide boards. So there still remains I've got photos and detail of that, where they could slot boards one on top of the other to block this off.
They've still got lots of obsidian in the soil too, I can see. Amazing.
What do you mean, obsidian in the soil?
Oh, in the walls of the cave, there's been a lot of pockets of obsidian.
Can you just take a picture of that?
That's beautiful.
This is so gorgeous.
And it's hundreds of years old.
So
Well, we know it was old. Well, it was standing there at least at 1840, because an artist sketched all these.
Wow.
And when you had some of them physically boarded up, the interpretation, all these are houses, you know, and okay, I've given you enough shock for this part.
no, this is the good part.
Well, shock horror, that could have been part of the road now.
Yes.
So I know you're speaking to work, and know you're speaking to someone who's in and out. So I personally involved the county planner with such places like this. And so now we've gone around here, par here, and the number 5 is this features of the pits we've just seen.
Wow.
And that's another little smudge on the map around the lake. But then, Jeffrey, I think we were at Tauponui and meandered down the road and suddenly got off and you're into a great big open pit. No one would know it was here. And that's the thing today that I hold, still retain the knowledge, and many people can pay even the opportunity of public access doing something. But nowadays, and as I say, just not there. That's why people, if anyone gets precious that you meet, want access to different places, that's their loss, Jeffrey, because we can happily talk about it with a photo and a narrative, or even on the roadside. But and you will find a lot of people that get, the more precious they are, sometimes it's the less they know. And so they don't want to tiny bit, they think how you're going to steal it from them, and it's just their preserve and their preciousness.
And so they hold on to that tiny little scrap of what they think is their knowledge.
The landowners I've got best with are those that measure their property in miles. The ones that are precious might be just a hectare or something, a lifestyle block. And we'll now go down here to the other end before Bully Point, down the road, and on the right you can park into that open clearing, and then there's the dock sign for the water, the access.
Is that where that little track was, that little small turning?
Not the first one, the one this side that had a wide area this side of Bully Point, and it's got a dock reserve walkway sign. And we'll talk a bit before we go walkies again. We'll talk a little bit, another couple of surprises, and we'll talk that no one would know they're there, and and Dock Reserve, and we'll talk a little bit before we go walkies again about some of the history pertaining to this area, some of the stories and that I hold, and can give a bit of narration if that's okay.
That's okay.
Sounds like a plan, Stan. Go pouring through it.
No,
There's a walkway, I think.
yeah, there is a walkway.
Yes.
But the I said before we go far, I'll give you a little bit of the history.
Yes.
And and when we left our you got it down, Pat. You said we had about 16 stops.
Yes.
That was at Chitoki Road, Rake Kurako. But I can mention a person, Takiri. Takiri?
Yes, you did.
Takiri is synonymous to living and occupying here. From all that place miles away at Reparai. And the people, lands and that, they all start connecting the whakapapa, the use and the dominance of and control of the district and the region. And so from here, that's how it's Pawa, Motutere, that from here I've got all this connected with Motutere here, and Takiri, when he was here at this pa that you'll get the download and use as a background, Takiri came from one kainga to another clothed in a blanket. That was here when he was living here with a blanket and his knife concealed in the blanket. Parikawa and Te Ihuwaka went outside to listen to what he was saying as he came along. They thought he was coming for some casual purpose. However, he attacked them with his knife as they were sitting down, stabbing each other. Then he went back, and Parikawa and Ihuwaka went into their houses and armed themselves with spears and went on to the whare where Takiri was. And there in the door of the whare was sitting Matu Titahi, obstructing the door. Parikawa pushed them over and they got in. Tarikari had gone to his own house and they called him to come out and fight, and he did not come. They threatened to disembowel him and he would not come, so he thrust their spears through the whare, but he wouldn't come out. And having speared all round the place, he wouldn't come out. They went back to their own kainga. They were toa, and they, in other words, warriors, strong people, and did not care for a wound. It was only a skin scratch. Well, that's what they call skin scratch. Odd spear stuck into you. The reason Parikawa came to Taupo was because he was a skilled carver. When the whare was finished, he came back to Takapau, and left Takiri and the others at Taupo. After that, they went to Ohaki. Takiri returned and lived at Te Apatu Ohio and died there. Now, that's just a brief, but as I say, some of these pa all around the lake, I can tell you stories and accounts, and over and above the thing. But
Yeah, puta aho.
Someone calls it and some or belonging to, and it depends what who you listen to there. But I show you here because now at Motutere, whare construction, and this is relevant here. Te Takohi died at Motutere, and his son, child Te Uri, married Te Uiki, and was great chief of Ngāti Tūwharetoa Ngāti Rangiita. Now Te Uri lived here with his sister Tamaiti, and both lived with their grandfather Te Moana. Tahuri Uiki was Te Uri's child and married Te Hiuhiu Tukino, chief of Ngāti Tūwharetoa. Tahuri died at Waihi at Taupo, and Taupo was a permanent kainga after she married Te Hiuhiu, but before that it was Takapau. So the paramountcy to saved themselves, if you like, actually finally married into the lineage and the lines of people living at Takapau. So you see where you start getting the wider connection? And this is where I thought I'd share this area with us before we get on boats and things. And Makiri and Maui here were descendants of Toa. Makiri died at Tauranga Taupo in the 1890s. So these are areas we stopped. So I'm connecting people, ancestors, places and names of places nowadays. Oh, we don't know about this, we don't know about that. And so this is just up talking about this area we just. I supervised the entire track for this. So you're wanting no accesses for places. I did make a certain provision. This ridges often approach pa, narrow ridges, have palisading and approaches to get through into. Now here, this is a ditch. Take note, it's been filled up. This is an outer ditch, small pa. There are similar pa with outer defence works that the archaeologists always miss, and they're being clever and mapping. And so this is a small outer one. See, strategically placed, the narrow ridgeway here. That could even be additional fencing coming to it, or lesser fences. And so here, and this is the main ditch. The main ditch here, yay wide, it went through. And then when they put the walkway in, they'd taken the soil from here, and they put it up to get an extra earthwork. And the workers, I said, don't go that way. They went and initially cut a track up here. That's now left to be overgrown, as you see. But this is a very small but strategic pa. Just like when we see Tarata pa, when you get on top, it's a very small area. But well so sited and secured just for a handful of people, but with what they had held as a secure defensive position. There's no use having a massive pa and there's only a handful of you to look after it. So this is one of these small ones, probably a nucleus one in its own time and place, for a small group initially having a hold on this area, ancestral to the later people and development and the big pa that went down here. So we'll go up on here if we can, and but that was one. And so this was the last modification, not going here along the ridge, but by then cutting into the, and this is all solid earthwork here. See a bit of depression. There could have been a forest site here, and here, this is one of the smaller pa, defensive pa we've got in this area, in this region, I should say. And see how suddenly it just dropped sheer down from us?
Does this path go out to the point?
No, this is sheer drop. This is as far as it goes. It sticks right up, and see how high we are up from the beach and everything. And they wanted to put the road right through here, and I wouldn't let them. I was still pleading, go overland, keep this as a scenic route, away from the trucks and the vehicles. And I think I did note a piece of obsidian lying on top. I don't touch or disturb anything. Your physical early association got some of these places. So this is one of the smaller pa, but no less significant for the ancestral in its time and place with the people here. So that's another square I've got here.
So are we looking out over Bully Point?
We are at Bully Point.
We are at Bully Point.
This is the rock, and Bully Point is straight down past the highway. That's Bully Point. So trucks come around, they swing around here, and see how trucks have to slow down and creep around the corner below us, and it's just sheer. It's sheer here. So there's natural defence. There's natural defences all here, and where they modified that little narrow point as an access way, and everything's basically sheer. This is why I had palisade, and the inner ditch and that smaller outer ditch is part of the access way to here. So what do you think?
I think people must have been so fearful back in those days, fearful of attack.
Well, if they were so vulnerable, they would have just run for their lives or paddled away for their lives. But they seemed to secure enough, and the more secure occupied one was that Hartopy there, above the settlement. Yes, and that had terraces and pits and that. This hasn't had that. This is an out and out defensive retreat, defensive place. But they still made use of gardens and where they were living. So that's just giving you a perspective that all this has been personally found, identified, and recorded by myself.
And set aside.
And set aside. And then a part of the reserve, to get it into the reserve status, be included in that, was to have a public access walking track way, just enjoy the bush and the bushwalk. We'll go just, I know you have no without water, but we'll go just a little way down, and I'll show you where they happily filled in all the pits when I was told to avoid the pits, and could use as a feature even signpost. Because when you got the pits here, dunk, 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 like that, say we'll put the track round, and you can even have a little sign, all storage pits, highlight a historic feature.
Yes.
And so when we came back, they with wheelbarrows and that had filled in all the pits. What can't they understand of something significant and just cutting tracks to a metre or two avoid? So that was the first lot. I did a bit of a complaint with the reserves range, because I left with insurances that would be taken. Hence the chain of command, blaming everyone else. Not me, not me, not me, to the boys there, and shouting at the poor woman who's down the hill beyond the whole lot, blaming her for the whole thing. So when you... So that's where I've got the...
So you have a look for them then?
We'll go down now, and remember they're covered, so I'll show you the cuts through. Then I would have had a bit of fencing. I gave you the story of that person with them, telling them come out and thrusting their spears at them. That all happened in the forest down here. It was with Takiri. He, after he stabbed a couple of people, the usual problem was over a woman, wasn't it?
Of course. They get blamed for everything,
yeah.
But they fought over like mad.
Are these these old ships or new?
These are new. These are all Maori never did steps like that. These were cut in by the workers who were seemingly told just to go at the base here, around and across. But no, they had to come up and through the ditch. And that's one of the things I left the. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Now these were done by the workers. They took all that trouble. All they had to do was just, without all that work, leave the pit, the integrity of that, and just go straight across there. Straight across there. One of the joys of me taking you off-road places all around this region is I realised how much I've been personally involved with the personal stories, so past and present.
Yes, you must have a cascade of memories in all the places you've re-walked with us.
And even remember what was said and gestures made.
Oh, I've got to be careful about what I say. Yeah.
No.
From now you might come back and tell me that one.
I remember back in 2003, I was with someone called Jeff Addison. Well, I'm with his grandchildren now.
No, I had to give him mouth to mouth, and because he was choking on a pie, and it wouldn't be Whaitaima, of course.
I eat like the old people. One bite at a time. I don't inhale my food.
I can go all day without water or anything to eat, but then someone starts mentioning it, then I... And so you've got a little pa here, but then you've got those massive pits, but those pits appeared to me contemporary with the identical ones on the other side, with much bigger populations, because the people, smaller ones, to defend that pa would only require one or two, and you've got smaller pits out here. There could have been the older gardens. They haven't had a 1080 drop here for a while because they can hear bird life.
Yeah, terrible. Beautiful mama bird.
So I was going to walk
Yes.
So do we have to walk this way back again?
Yes. Well, if you go the other way, that's where you first go, you've got all that road and that. This is the way we walk back again. But we're only walking, we're not walking all the way back, we're only going to where the pits are.
Until we go back again. You should have ordered them to dig out what we covered up again.
No, yes.
That would have been easy enough to do. Restore them. Maybe they thought they were burial caves or something.
No, they were just told to go to one side and even post up storage thing. They have a nice little sign explaining the use and all the cultivation grounds.
I think it's a good track.
Now, there's more level ground on this side that the pits were.
The rough side or?
No, there were 5 pits on one side and 2 on the other. And see, we're above the road here.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So interesting, eh?
What is this here? Oh crap. Yeah. So did this go all the way to Motutere?
No, that sign the other end as we came down,
Yes.
they showed there was a bit of clearing to one side with a dock notice. That's where this ends. But we are now actually on the old horse cart road.
Yes.
This level here was the original horse and cart, not down here.
Wow.
This is why suddenly for a walking track it's so much wider and more compacted here. So this is the original road about circa 1900s or so, before they Ryan and all those and the steamboat operation, before they could properly connect with the Tauponui area. Suppose you might say it's of historic industrial interest or something. So,
Are we still near Motutere?
we're Motutere, we're coming into the other side of that. Tauranga was further south, past the Motutere Mission Bay. This is what I mean, you're in a buggy, horse and buggy, and you meet another one who backs up.
It would have been quite
Well, it was about as...
stone bank. There's a stone bank on this side.
So our pa was just on top of there, proud there, just above. I think there was an old, probably an old landing in the past just in here. It's one of the few bits of sandy beach you could nestle in.
Oh, rock art.
Yes. I think lower down they had on the rocks where you could see from roadside with a fist, a black power.
Yes. John Key. I can read John Key.
I thought that was the
No, this is rubs and it goes green. This isn't the Kokowai. This has been partly blasted to form the whole road. So I like to get the old past, you know, road makers, horse and cart, to where our modern roads go. But so even walking here is quite pleasant, isn't it?
Very.
Quite nice, eh? So you see, when I say I had these government departments, commission lands and that, writing to me, where can I list all the glass plate negatives held at the Auckland Museum? Why aren't the directors of the museum and staff being asked for that? Can I have pictures and photos of the old historic Opepe signs and things, which even I doubt the museum's got here, and so I can produce documents on behalf of Commission Lands asking me for that information many years ago. So it's always a very one-sided thing, you know, that I've dealt with. But I can support with my ideas when I say I got Commission Lands to do this. When I say it was a personal thing and a working relationship I built up. But I wasn't being funded, employed, or by anyone. And that was direct result, and an attachment, if you like. I can send that as attachment from that display I put in the Tauponui Museum.
Yes, yes.
And now there's no record of it ever existing. And all this correspondence, people were so enraptured with all the whole thing. Or wanting, or could we saw photos at the display, could we get a copy of this and that? So I'll forward that as an attachment too, just to support the rhetoric.
Just to support you right now.
Yeah, yes, with my reminiscences of these things. But I think we walked past the Fulden pits, and they were supposed to avoid, and there were two left. But I just can't quite locate them. They're on just a side of bank. The others were on flat ground. These were just in a slight rise at a corner. So we've missed those today, but I have got a note and a record of them. Oh, Jeffrey, I tried to do this for 30, 40 places around the lake, and when I said such reserves can protect the trees, environment and historic features, there was hot opposition and objections from Te Whaitaima Trust Board of even wanting to have such concepts and recognition. I think at the time they were still wanting everything developed, everything cleared, cut, felled, like Opepe, and that was the mentality. They saw this in the way of dollars preserving. In later years I had Maori preserve the marvellous wetlands, Ducks Unlimited and that, for that. So it's a journey in hand. It's like the sower in the Bible, with the sower, and some seed fell on rock and didn't grow. Other seed fell on fertile land and sprung and flourished. So that's been part of my journey on the environmental side of things, of which hopefully a few little features within that environmental preservation of reserves are automatically protected and sheltered.
Wow.